Across history, moments of great change have called for great leadership. Today, we stand at one of those moments. Generative AI is reshaping our economies, our societies, and our ways of life. And the Caribbean must lead with wisdom, courage, and vision. Over the years, we have been guided by giants, our global ambassador, Professor Bob Garrett, Professor Mervyn King, Professor Charlotte Vallet, Nandi Mandela, and Professor John Elkington. As generative AI reshapes our world, governance must not just adapt, it must lead. We are thrilled to welcome Fatima Abu Salem of the University of Beirut, our keynote speaker, as we feature a week of powerful conversations, fresh ideas, and collective action. Over 5 days, more than 50 Caribbean leaders will join forces to adapt, to change, and to shape it. To build governance that is ethical, resilient, and deeply human. We thank our sponsors for standing with us on this journey. Governance Week 2025, Governance in the Age of Generative AI. Good morning, everyone. Just realized I needed to unmute here. So thank you all and welcome to Governance Live here with us at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. I'm Kamla Rampersad de Silva. As those of you who follow the live stream know by now, this is a series of half-hour interviews that we engage in leading up to Governance Week 2025. And this year, of course, we have a very, very interesting topic, which is governance in the age of generative AI. And we know how much AI is evolving and definitely going to be changing our world. So we look forward to the conversations that's going to help us make sense of a lot of the changes that would be coming our way. And of course, before we get into the conversation with our guest today, I would like to say a very special thank you to our sponsors. Massey Holdings, our platinum sponsor, returning as platinum sponsor for the second year in a row. So thank you, Massey, for your continued support to us here at the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. We have 2 silver sponsors this year. We are happy to have Trident Trust from the British Virgin Islands, joining us as a sponsor this year, along with First Citizens Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, which has been a sponsor for Governance Week since inception. This year, we have 6 bronze sponsors, 5 of whom are from Trinidad and Tobago and 1 from Belize. So we say thank you to our Trinidad and Tobago sponsors, Republic Bank Limited, Angostura Limited, PwC Trinidad and Tobago, B-Mobile, which is a first-time sponsor here with us from the Telecommunication Services of Trinidad and Tobago, and Information Systems Limited, which provides our links services in Trinidad. And we welcome for the second year from Belize, G.A. Rowe and Sons as a bronze sponsor for Governance Week. So we have, as you know, Fatima Abu Salem, as we featured in the video, is going to be the opening keynote, usually the only international speaker, because we keep Governance Week for our regional leaders, so we can look at the issues as it faces us from our perspective. Today, we have a very special guest who is going to share a lot about changes that has been happening that can guide many of us in the region. So, Tanisha Campbell. Tanisha, welcome to Governance Live.
Okay, thank you so much, Kamla and team, for having me, and hello to everybody.
Thank you. So, Tanisha, persons on the live stream may know, Tanisha has been a panelist with us previously for CCGI, but this would be her first time for Governance Week itself. So, we are very happy to have you, Tanisha.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so let's start with Tanisha telling us a little bit about yourself and your role, because specifically we are going to be looking at some of the things that you do as we discuss today.
Okay, hi everybody. So my name is Tanisha Campbell and I am a Senior Director at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service at in Jamaica. in the Public Enterprises Division, where I have responsibility for the governance of public bodies. And so I guide public bodies on being more efficient and effective in creating robust corporate governance structures that can help them to drive their mandates. I also have responsibility for leading policy change with respect to corporate governance, make recommendations for legislation in respect of corporate governance. So everything that has to do with corporate governance and driving the corporate governance framework across all the public bodies, all the government enterprises in Jamaica, I have responsibility for that.
Excellent. So you're the right person we should be talking to this morning. Because, as you know, Trinidad and Tobago recently went through general elections and there was a change in government. And therefore, there are some issues for directors of state boards in terms of what actions they are to take. And I want to have this conversation given that Guyana is also going to general election. I think September is when they would be going to the polls. And Jamaica as well has general elections scheduled for this year.
About September, yes.
Right. Good. So therefore, we have to have some system in place for what should be the practice for directors of state boards when there is a change in government. So you said you were on is it the Public Enterprises Committee that you were head of?
No, I'm a part of the Public Enterprises Division of the Ministry of Finance. So that is, yeah,
Right.
that's a division within the ministry.
Okay, so this division you said helps in ensuring that there are robust governance structures and any policy changes that need to be made. Because of course, as the environment changes, there are things that you have to look at updating and so.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
Tanisha, let's start with the public accounts management, the Public Bodies Accounts and Management Act of 2021, which is the legislation that was passed in Jamaica that guides a lot of what the Public Enterprises Division ensures is followed. First, can you share with us how did that act come about? Because it's unique in that this is law that covers a lot of the state enterprises in terms of the composition of the board, in terms of the requirement for directors to be trained first in governance before they can offer themselves for service and so. Can you give us any background in terms of how that law came into being?
Okay, sure. So the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act is the overarching governance legislation in Jamaica, and it guides all our public enterprises on a strict corporate governance rules. And so it dictates to all our public enterprises what is acceptable in terms of board management and governance related issues. And so Jamaica had persistent challenges when it came to mismanagement, corruption, political interference, and all of those things. And there was no document, no law that governed how boards should operate. And so it was really at the behest of the political directorate, who was giving all of the charges to these boards. And a lot of these board members are usually politically affiliated. And so they're there to drive a particular agenda. And so we saw that a lot of the boards and the companies, they were rife with corruption, mismanagement, etc. And so there was the need to put something in place to hold these board members accountable, right? And of course, when we talk about good governance, we're talking about the tenets of good governance: fairness, accountability, responsibility, right? And transparency. And we wanted our board members to ensure that they were upholding those tenets. And so we ensured that we placed a law in place. We put a law in place so that they were guided, because sometimes board members, they really want to do well, but there's no guidance. There's nothing to hold them accountable. And so when that was done, we found that a lot of our public bodies they were now trying to get in line, and they don't want to face sanctions, because ultimately, when there are issues in relation to governance and the board at a strategic level, it is the board members who are held to account. And so board members don't want to be held accountable. And so we find that even though there are quite a few of them who are politically affiliated, they really wanted to do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, it is their necks that will be on the chopping blocks when they go to Parliament to answer before the committee. And so it was important for us to implement it, to provide that guidance to the board members, and to let them know that there are sanctions. You will be held accountable if you do not follow the directives of these laws. And so right now, I think we are doing well. Of course, we can do better. We can do better. There's always room for improvement. But I find, because I am one of the key persons who would go out and do the trainings of the boards and to sensitize them and to get them to understand what the law means and to interpret it for them. And I find largely that board members are really interested in doing well. And they're interested in understanding what the law says and how it is that they can give their best to the public enterprises that they're placed to support. So I find that it's very good. We are now in the process of amending the PBMA Act. We're at the final stage before it goes to cabinet for approval. And we're making some huge changes, some big changes to the law. I can't really say what those changes are just yet, but we are making amendments, and we're ready to start again to improve our governance structures across our public enterprises.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tanisha, I'm so pleased to hear you say that what you are finding when you go out and meet with directors is a genuine desire on the part of all of them to really do well. And
Yes.
basically, what they have needed is some guidance in terms of what is expected of them. So, you may have seen in Trinidad and Tobago, following the change in government in April, there has been a bit of confusion, it would seem, on the part of some directors as to whether or not they should submit a resignation to the new government. Now, at CCGI, one of the things that we have encouraged is for persons to understand their fiduciary duties as directors. So, yes, there is a change in government and there is an expectation that persons should offer their resignation, because the practice has been that the new government would select persons on the basis of carrying out the policies that they have been voted into office with. However, it appears that some of those boards may not have submitted resignations. I'm not sure what would have prompted the exact appeal, but there was a very public statement on the part of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago stating that there are persons who are not following that practice and have not offered their resignations. So uh, there really needs to be some sort of very clear practice that says this is what you do, that allows you to fulfill that fiduciary duty, so you don't simply resign and walk away when there is no system in place for continuity. But at the same time, something that allows the new government to feel that it has control over the state enterprises. So share with us, what is the process that you have in Jamaica?
So currently, we mandate that once there is a change of government or a change of minister, whether your term has expired or not, you must submit your resignation. However, though you have submitted your resignation, remember, resignation is not, though you submit the resignation, right, the minister would need to accept the resignation first before it is effective. And so we ask that the resignations be submitted. However, do not walk away from your position. So the minister, if the government has not changed and there is a new minister, he or she may ask that the board remains in place and continue until he or she appoints a new board, because there must be a board in place at all times. That is what we want for our public enterprises in Jamaica, because there are so many things that are happening. And if you have a board not in place indefinitely, it may cause chaos, and individuals within the organization will not know what to do because they don't have that strategic direction that comes from board. And we ask that the boards stay in place, though they have resigned, until the minister has made a decision as to the way forward.
Okay, and is there usually a period of time that is expected to happen?
60 days, 60 days. But 60 days is really 2 months. Sometimes you are unable to find the caliber of people to outfit those boards within 60 days. And so if you don't have already system in place, it may take a longer time.
Yes, in fact, there are boards in Trinidad and Tobago that I know have not been appointed for a full year, you know, and that's over successive governments. It's not just any one government that would have that experience. So what helps you to be able to get those people within that 60-day period in Jamaica?
All right, so currently we have what is called the database of prospective directors. And so a regulation under the PBMA Act was put in place. It's called the Nomination, Selection and Appointment to Boards 2021. So it was passed in 2021. So every individual who is desirous of becoming a board member must make an application through that database. So if it is that you're already sitting on a board, you must apply. If you do not apply to this database, you will not be selected for any board at all. And so the appointing authorities, who are the ministers and the governor general, when it is time to appoint a new board, they would pull a list of candidates from this database, of course, a list of candidates that are fitting the competencies that are required for that particular board. And so once individuals have the suitable competencies, a list is generated by the secretariat and sent to the minister. And of course, the list is vetted by the minister and his personnel. And then a list of prospective directors are selected. Of course, communication would ensue between the ministry and these individuals to see whether or not they accept. And then if they are desirous of being board members, then a cabinet decision, a cabinet submission would be made, and then cabinet decides whether or not these individuals are suitable. So there's always a ready pool of candidates. So before we would have boards waiting for like a year, more, even sometimes more than a year. But right now we have a ready pool of candidates. We have over 2,000 individuals that are qualified in the database that we can pull from. And so it really helps us.
Excellent. So basically, your process is one where it is still the minister who makes that final selection, sends it to cabinet, cabinet approves, and so the appointments are made. So let's talk about that pool of candidates then. You said that there are over 2,000 persons who are qualified. What is the type of qualification specifically you're looking for? Because of course, a board would generally have quite a mix of competencies. You'd have from attorneys to accountants to maybe medical doctors and all of that. What specifically are the types of competencies that you're looking for that would qualify someone to be able to have their name added to that database?
All right, so there are some mandatory competencies that every board must have. So these competencies are governance experience. You must have expertise in governance. So there must be somebody with governance expertise on the board. There must be someone with expertise in risk management. There must be someone who has expertise in HR. And there must be someone who has legal experience, legal expertise. And then all the other technical competencies can be pulled from the database. But these are pulled from the database, but we ensure that those four competencies are always generated for each board.
Okay, so but is there specific corporate governance training that you expect these persons to have in order to understand the role and function of the board before they get on the database, or do they register to be on the database and then they go and get those training?
Okay, not before. So there is mandatory training that's required for every board members, and it's a part of the ongoing training for our directors. And this is training in risk management, training in governance, and training in procurement, because procurement is a major issue here. So those 3 areas, it is mandatory that all board members be trained in these areas. However, we do not require you to have a prior knowledge or prior training prior to you becoming a prospective director. What we ask for is that individuals who believe that they're suitable to serve on any board, because you can't specify what board you want to serve on, right? So you just indicate your willingness as a suitable Jamaican to sit on a board. And then if it is that your skill sets are needed and the minister, the appointing authority, finds that you are a good fit, then he or she would pull you from that list. But you don't even have to be university educated, because boards are different. Individuals are different that are required. Sometimes there is a push for youth to be involved in boards, individuals who have expertise in the creative arts, various different industries. So it doesn't have to be something that is academic,
Okay.
right?
Understood. So therefore, Tanisha, let's say, for instance, there's a 30-year-old who is interested in serving on a board, and so they offer their name. At what point do you do the training in governance and procurement and all of that? Is it after they may have been selected to serve on a board, or is it as soon as they get accepted and their name is on the database?
No, so it is all the way. You must be appointed. You must be appointed to serve on a board before that training is possible. Because when individuals sign up for the database, they go through what we call a due diligence process, a due diligence exercise. So we try to vet the information that you provide to see that it is accurate, that you went to the school that you said that you went to, that the experience that you have is legitimate, right? And so once we've checked all those boxes, then we take you from one holding area to the next holding area, right? And then once you've checked all the boxes, the application is fine, then we would send you over to the database. If it is that you're selected for certain boards, because we have some boards that are considered to be boards of strategic importance for the government, if you're selected to be a member of one of those boards, then you would undergo a fit and proper exercise, and that is a comprehensive background check that is done by the FID, the Financial Investigatives Division of the Ministry, as well as the Bank of Jamaica, and they check everything to make sure that you have not committed fraud, you know how to manage your money, you've never been a bankrupt, etc. And so once you've checked all those boxes, then you would be able to sit on the board of strategic importance.
Okay, excellent. So there's that due diligence process that happens as persons apply. And therefore, as you say, almost any Jamaican can choose that they want to serve and apply to be on this database, and then they go through that process. And then it is at the point of having been selected and agreed, and so appointed to a board, that they're now taken through a second layer of process, which is training in governance itself. And that is conducted by the division.
Necessarily. We don't do training where you get a certificate. It's part of our portfolio of responsibility. And so we are mandated to go out and provide these trainings. However, if the directors want to get certificates and the CPDs, etc., they can go to a company that provides the CPDs and the training hours that they need and the certification, etc. So we don't have to do it. It can be any.
If I may make a plug here, Tanisha, and tell all your directors in Jamaica that CCGI provides certificates with CPD hours. so that they could get their training.
Because a lot of the time they ask, okay, do you provide certificates for
Yeah.
the trainings, or do we get CPD hours? And we tell them no. So I definitely will. I'll make that recommendation. Thanks.
Awesome. Now we are coming. I can't believe it's already just 5 minutes more to our governance life. But I want to come back to that specific point that Trinidad and Tobago is struggling with. And this is the resignations of persons on state boards. So basically, the process as you have it in Jamaica is that the resignation is offered.
Yes.
It is at the point of acceptance by the line minister or whoever the authority is that they would submit that resignation to. It is at that point that the resignation is effective.
Effective, yes.
Okay, I see. Because what has happened is it appears that in Trinidad and Tobago, some of the directors have submitted their letters of resignations and walked away.
Yeah.
So
We've
they are
had that, we've
they're
had that
state
issue in
enterprises
Jamaica.
without boards.
We've had that issue in Jamaica too, and we continue to encourage and sensitize our boards that even though you've submitted your resignation, you still have that responsibility to stay until a board has been appointed, a new board has been appointed. So it's teething pains, but I feel that we're getting better. We're getting better.
Yes, but there are a couple of things that I think may also create some confusion for directors who are on state boards but waiting for a response from the minister. So it generally is accepted practice. It's not law. So maybe you could tell me if this is captured in your legislation as well.
No,
But
it's
the
not.
accepted practice, right, is that you don't engage in any major decisions during that wait period.
Yeah.
And so tell me what happens there, because I think that is one of the issues in Trinidad and Tobago, that directors who had not resigned were continuing with business as normal, moving ahead with major decisions and recruitment and so, which I think might have gotten the government a bit annoyed and therefore called for resignation of all directors.
All right, so it is not written in the law per se, right now. It's a part of the corporate governance framework, and which is in principle, right? And we consider it to be highly persuasive. But of course, because it is not written in law, it really has no teeth. Usually it has to be somewhere enshrined in law for people to really believe that they must do it. But we find we've never had an issue with directors submitting their resignation. But it's just that the walking away is the issue, and not remembering that they still have a responsibility. So there are major decisions that can't be taken during this period, and we've laid it out clearly for all board members. We call it the board transition guidelines. So we provide clear guidance as to what is expected, what the board can do, what the board can't do during this period. So they can't make major decisions. They can't hire a new CEO. They can't engage in major contracts during this period, etc. And then there are some things that they must do. So they must put a comprehensive document in place for the new board so that they can see what the outgoing board did, the major decisions that were made, if there are any legal issues that the company is contending with, where the companies is at in terms of those legal issues, etc. And most importantly, an assessment of the CEO must be done.
Okay.
There must be an assessment of the CEO during this period.
Now, I just want to ask, this board transition guideline, where does it exist?
It is on the Ministry of Finance's website. All you need
Okay,
to do
so it's
is
not
type.
part of the legislation, but it is
No,
very clear guideline that has been provided.
yes.
Okay. Definitely something that I believe Trinidad and Tobago could benefit from. And I also like this idea. It was something that was suggested even by our own chairman here at CCGI, that boards should prepare a substantive document that is a handover. And this too should serve to prepare the incoming board so that there is effective continuity.
Yes, and it does help.
Yeah, so I too believe, Tanisha, that the majority of directors want to do good. that the majority of directors who serve on state boards wish to see progress, wish
Yes,
to see continuity. The challenge is that sometimes people's politics gets in the way.
yes. Oh, yeah, does get in the way.
And it is at that point that clearly written guidelines make a difference. So certainly, I think, and I've touted this very often, the rest of the region can learn so much from the progress that you have made in Jamaica. Certainly, we'd be looking at those guidelines and possibly seeing if there's some way we can encourage other countries in the Caribbean region to adopt them so that we can avoid a lot of the challenges that are being faced right now. Tanisha, thank you so much. It's 1 p.m. already. Well, 12.
Um,
On my side, it's 12 noon in Trinidad and Tobago, 1 p.m. here in Suriname. And you are where, Tanisha, it's
I'm
you
11 at 11 now. 11:01.
so we are crossing several time zones here as we do this governance live. I am in Suriname because this week coming is the Suriname Energy Conference, and we were here as part of a trade mission with the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association that did a trade mission to Guyana and Suriname. So CCGI is spreading its wings. We are looking to share the messages of good governance everywhere in the region, especially because we engage in a lot of trade with each other. It's helpful if we have common practices that would help all of us to know and understand how best to relate so that we can move forward in really effective ways. Tanisha, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really impressed with all the work that you and the team is actually doing. You continue to push the governance agenda throughout the Caribbean. Just continue. It's really, I'm really impressed. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanisha. And we look forward to having you. You are one of our panelists for Governance Week as well. And on the Wednesday, we look at governance of state enterprises, and you're on one of those panels. So we'd be looking at the use of artificial intelligence and how it can help us in ensuring that there is such a much more smooth transition preparation for all of us so that we can do the best we can with our organization so we can have better run organizations and as a result, better societies here in the Caribbean region. So thank you, Tanisha.
Thank you. Have a
And
great day.
thank you. Yes, thank you all of you who have joined us on this live stream. It's been great having you. We have a continued governance live for this week. Tomorrow it would be Richard Leo from Guyana. On Wednesday, I have a panelist from here in Suriname. Thursday, it would be our chairman, Nigel Romano. And Friday, we end Governance Live with CCGI's Global Ambassador, Professor Bob Garrett. And of course, Sunday, 22nd, we begin with our opening ceremony for Governance Week 2025. So see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye now.